Hi friends, hope you are doing well. I am Dr. Ganguly. Welcome to my channel. So today I am going to discuss the important topic of education loans or student loans. And essentially, as most of you know, the cost of studying has been going up over the years, and nowadays it's become almost impossible to fund your education only by savings. And so many people take out loans to do their degree. And so let's discuss this important topic about should you take an education loan or a student loan, and if so, what are the parameters to keep in mind. Now I'm going to split this discussion into 6 points, and you can look at these points and then decide if you want to take a student loan, how much should your student loan be, and so on. Now, do keep in mind that over the past many years, many financial educations have found that education loans are a very profitable business, and therefore there are a lot of banks, financial companies offering student loans out there. Now, the number one point is that whenever you are studying, you should focus on skills and not the college. So this is particularly important if you are studying any of the STEM disciplines, that is the science, technology, engineering and math disciplines. Because what happens is that if you are going to do a computer science or data science or mechanical engineering or accountancy or business or nursing degree, it does not matter what is your university. What matters is that the skills you are learning are reasonably good or not. Now, of course, I am factoring in that the university has to be a reasonably good university, an accredited university, and a university which is vetted by the government institutions in that country. But do keep in mind that a computer science degree, whether it is obtained from Harvard University or it is obtained from Mississippi State University or it is obtained from the NIT at Trichy, it's not very different, because essentially what has happened is that the curriculum is now laid out by different people, such as the Association of Computing Machinery, the IEEE, the different engineering certification bodies in the country, such as the ABET, the AICT, and so on. And so there is a fairly standard level of courses which you are going to study if you are going to study, for example, the computer science degree or the mechanical engineering degree for that matter. So what matters is that what is the amount of money you need to spend to go to this college, and whether this amount of money is something which you are able to generate either through yourself or through your parents' saving. So that's something very important to keep in mind. Now, this thing I mentioned applies to all the engineering type of field and even to fields such as medical and MBA, because these are primarily skills. But in MBA, I'm going to discuss some more effect because branding does come in here. So now that leads directly to number point 2. Now, whenever you are studying disciplines such as liberal arts, humanities, social sciences, or business, the name of the college starts gaining importance. And this is because these degrees are not just degrees about what you are studying, it's also a degree about the network you are trying to get here. So whenever you are studying at universities such as Yale or Harvard or Stanford for that matter, or Oxford or Cambridge, what happens is that you are in a cohort or in a group of students who are all coming from very established and elitist backgrounds around the world. So you may have as your classmates students who are children of the prime ministers of countries, of the biggest industry tycoons, of top lawyers and businessmen, of top government officials, of doctors and surgeons for that matter, and so on. So what happens is that these people are going to play a big role in the future, especially if you are dealing with professions which are more dependent on network and less dependent on just the skills. So for example, if you are studying STEM disciplines, skills are very important. But if you are studying any of the liberal art, humanities, or even the business type of disciplines, network becomes very important. And in those cases, people are willing to pay for the good network which they get if they get into Ivy League and so on. Now, in this case, do check your test results and all. Of course, if you are able to get admission to these universities, you must have very good test scores, and probably you will get the advantage of this network over the course of your life. So that's something to keep in mind, that you choose the best college if you are going for a non-STEM type of major, which requires networks to be there for the rest of your life and does not just require skills. Now, point number 3 is estimate the return on investment. So whenever we invest money, whether it is money we keep in the bank, we keep in CDs or fixed deposits, in mutual funds, index funds, in bonds, we are always looking for a certain return on our investment. So the return may be 5%, the return may be 10%, the return may be 15%, and so on. So essentially, if you are taking a large loan to fund your education, maybe you took a loan of $100,000 or even $250,000. What is the end goal here? Are you going to be able to recover this money, and are you going to be able to give a return of investment on this money? Now, this of course is going to totally depend on what type of job are you going to get and what is the pay which is going to come after your job. So this is one of the reasons why people who do MBA are often willing to take a large loan to do an MBA from Harvard or Yale or some of the top universities, because they know that if they land a job in Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or any of the top firms in Wall Street, they can easily pay off the loan in a few years, and they can actually then save a very large amount of money compared to what they put in. So essentially they are getting a good return on investment on this degree. But let's suppose you are doing a degree in gender studies or anthropology from Stanford University or from Columbia University. The question is, are you going to be able to get the return on investment or not? Now, if you happen to be somebody whose parents are very wealthy, then that's not an issue. You may be doing a degree just to have a college experience. But if you are somebody who actually cares about the return on investment, who is coming from a middle class background, that is something to keep in mind. Now, the number 4 issue is factor in the visa, and this is specifically for foreign student. If you are a foreign student and you are going to a country, especially if you are doing a bachelor's degree in a non-STEM discipline, are you going to be able to get a visa which allows you to work in that country? Because if you do go back and work in your home country, do remember the salaries may not be at par with where you did the degree. And so you need to keep this in mind as to, are you going to be able to generate the return on investment if you are factoring in your visa. Now, in most cases what happens that it is easier to get visas if you are studying a STEM discipline, again science, technology, engineering and math. For example, in US, this kind of degree allows you to do practical training for up to 3 years in many cases, and also it is easier to get various visas such as the H1B visa and so on if you have a science and technology degree. Now, finally, the fifth point I'm going to tell you is that it's always better to get a student loan if you are doing a master's degree or a graduate degree, preferably a master's degree of some sort. Now, the best degrees would be master's degree in STEM or in the MBA. Now, do remember that many MBAs are also classified as STEM. For example, if you are doing MBA in fields such as information systems or finance or data science, then you may also be a STEM type of student. Now, here I would always say that prefer the MS degree over the BS degree, because the graduate degree is likely to give you more bang for the buck, and you are going to have a lesser amount of loan, because the master's degree can be finished in 1 or 2 years, whereas the BS may take 4 to 5 years to do. Even the MBA degree, which may take up to 2 years, has a possibility of giving a huge payoff. So do keep these in mind. But again, if you are a foreign student, factor in the visa issue, because that's something to always remember. And of course, if you are somebody who is thinking about doing a PhD, never take an education loan for a PhD, because a PhD will typically get you some kind of stipend, either as a fellowship or as a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship of some sort. And if you are somebody who wants to do a PhD, do look at my web page or my YouTube channel for various resources such as the DAD fellowship and so on, where you can do PhDs for free. And finally, the sixth point, and that is probably the most important point, is that do not take education loans if it's possible with your parents, because what happens is that your parents at this point may be somewhere in their 50s or late 40s, and so what's going to happen is that if you are not able to get a good job and make a lot of money so that you can pay the student loan, this entire loan is going to fall on them at a point in their life when their age is quite high, when they are nearing retirement, and essentially it's going to bankrupt their retirement. So even if parents are watching this video, this is something very important, because sometimes what happens is that if you take the loan on your name, the child may go to some foreign country such as the US. He may even get a great job, maybe do an MBA and get a job in Goldman Sachs, but they may blow it all up in buying BMW and Mercedes cars, because some of these are necessary in the kind of jobs which they have, and they may not be able to remit this money back to you. So it's always important to make sure that the education loan is taken in the student's name, and this will make sure that the student also thinks a lot about spending the money, so that even when they are at the university, they are not spending money casually, they are not eating out at the most expensive restaurants, they are not necessarily wasting money in traveling to different exotic places, maybe France or Germany or Norway for that matter. And of course they will have much greater budget consciousness if they are themselves going to pay the loan back. So that's probably the most important lesson for today, is that do not take the loan with your parents, and if you are parents, then I would say that you will bankrupt your retirement if you take student loans with your or for your children. So that's something to keep in mind. Now I have made some videos about saving money for college. You can take a look at that, and it's always better to start as soon as possible in this particular path, because that will certainly alleviate the need to take a large loan. So I'll end this video here, and I will see you in a video sometime soon. See you then.